Alright, so let's just cover the fundamentals of the last 3 weeks so far involving web design. First things first, whenever we're creating new files, we're just creating a new file and let's talk about all the parts of it. Index.html, you will name yours lowercase index.html for a particular site if you want it to be your landing page. Index.html is essentially if you have a folder of a whole bunch of files and one of them is named index.html, that will always be the page that will be loaded. Since I already have a file here, I'm just going to rename this some random HTML file. As soon as you create a file, if you are using Dreamweaver, you know already that it will go ahead and insert all the generic and very basic parts of an HTML file. That is all of this stuff, which are just comments, right? At the end of the day, it is information about the information. It is information about this HTML file. Metadata, essentially, that's where you want to set everything up. It's not things that we care for at the moment because we are not making commercial we're not trying to make sure that these are accessible by people, but this just describes everything about this document. An HTML file, of course, is made up of markups. Typically, your HTML file will include the basic tags, the HTML tag, the meta tag, title, head, and body. Those are your bare bone tags for a starter file. Title, this is typically what's going to show up on your tabs. So if the page is an About Me page, it might be called About Me. I don't know. If it's a home, maybe it'll be called Home, or maybe just your website. You have your header here. Typically the header contains information about this actual page. The title is information about the page. This metadata is information about this page. The body is going to be where the content of the page will be added. Alright, so for every opening tag, each individual tag is defined. Can I zoom? I guess I cannot zoom in this, huh? So a tag has this way. This is the syntax, right? It's always these sets followed by the name of the tag, and then this is called the opening tag. The ending tag is exactly the same way, except for that you have a slash here. So again, same thing for HTML. So other examples here: opening tag, ending tag, opening tag, ending tag, opening tag, ending tag. Some different ones that we've seen so far are the headings, whereas we have h1 as a tag, h1 tag, we need an ending tag, h2 tag, 2 tag, all the way to 6. There is no 7 or anything unless you define it yourself, but as built into the language, it is past h7 doesn't exist. So this is what we have so far. If we update it and look at it in live view, this is h1, this is h6. So as the numbers go up for the header, the size decreases. And those are just pre-built-in rules about these tags. We also take a look at the paragraph tag. So the formatting for this would be just your regular text. This is one sentence of a paragraph. Paragraph. Sometimes you have to click and unclick this. So you guys see me struggle with it. Sometimes you will too. So this is the regular size of a paragraph. We have stuff like EM. Let's see what that does with a word. So if you want to italicize something, EM. If you want to make something bold, strong. You want to... here I messed up my tag, so that's gonna happen most of the time. Sometimes you get away with messing up your tags without any repercussions, or you don't see it on the page until later when you're adding more tags. So it's it's important that you keep track of your tags. Alright, so then we also learned other things like maybe changing the color. So what if I wanted to change the color of the body or just my H1? These are known as attributes. Anything that you add in the header here, essentially in the beginning of the tag, is going to be considered an attribute for that tag. Color, for example, what if we wanted to say yellow? That is one attribute that we can change. So that could be changed for the others as well. We learned about list. There's one called an ordered list, and there's one that is an unordered list. Let's see what happens if we create a tag for an ordered list. So this one, it's different because you've got two tags working inside another. You've got the ordered list here, and then each item for this list needs to be defined by the li tag, which is list item. Item 1, item 2. So save that. So for an ordered list, they will automatically be numbered. If we want an unordered list, you want to use a UL for unordered. So again, opening tag, ending tag. So Dreamweaver should be nice enough that it's going to suggest some things there. So now the same thing here, we want to add in list items inside of this unordered list. Okay. So now the difference is, again, this is ordered, so auto bulleted with numbers. This one is just regular bullets. The other thing we learned about briefly was, with links. Let's learn about links. So an anchor is a link in HTML. Link 1. So let's learn about absolute references. So with links, the idea is it's linking to a different page. The page either exists in the same location or it exists in another part of the web. Let me wait until they are done.
Again, students are not with an adult and supervised club. Sport or activities should leave the building. Thank you.
Alright, so what we want to do is define the href, which is the location we want to go to. If you are referring to a page that is completely outside of this page, you want to make sure that you want to add in HTTP and the rest of this. So this will take us to google.com. That should take us to google.com. If you press Control, for example, or if you just view this on your browser, it's going to take you there. Okay, so link 1, it should take me to Google. Perfect. So now if you want to add another link, you can just keep adding them in. So you can imagine, you can just copy paste them if you need to. What's this doing? So maybe this one though doesn't go to Google, it just goes to page2.html. The thing is, again, we talked about relative versus absolute. Absolute references provide the entire address for the page you're trying to get to. http://www.google.com is the complete address for google.com. Adding the http there just says you need to look outside of whatever website this link is on. However, if you have a relative link, such as this one right here, you can see there is no HTTP. It doesn't refer to anything specific. What is assumed there is that page2.html is relative to where this page is, right? We don't have a page2.html, but if you could imagine, what it's saying is that you have a second page that exists within the same website. And so if I created a page2 here, page2.html, and then now that will be on the server, and I can just link to it using this website. So if I preview this site again in Firefox, and I click on my second link there, it's trying to go to page2.html that exists within week 4. But of course, whenever we're uploading, so the idea is our site is always live. So if we go to Study CS, Web Design, every single student in the class should have a folder under their name. Yours is going to be full first name, last name. These are the ones that are officially in the gradebook, not your nicknames. And then what we did was we created a week 4 folder. So again, if we go here, this is index2.html. That just means I need to provide the absolute reference to it in order for it to load up. If I click on link 2, what it does is it takes me to a blank page because we've got nothing inside page 2. So if I click on page 2 here, page 2 is empty. So it doesn't take me anywhere. Alright, so that's the linking. Then finally we ended up with, we also worked with images. So that's just another tag called img. Why is this acting crazy right now? For images, you have an src, and then this is going to link to either the full address, or if it's on the same place as this page, you can just say something like mypic.jpg, and it should change all that jazz. So this is just another tag. We can put that up later. Then finally, there's those tables that we learned. So table would be your tag. What we have are elements within the table. One of those elements is a header, for example, as well as a row. So right now, let's define a row. So this means I have a table with one row. In this one row, I just want a whole bunch of columns. Except they're not just special. They're not just any ordinary cells. Each of those is going to be a header. So this one is going to be header 1, th, header 2. If I save this and take a look at what we have, so it's bold because we define them to be the header. So typically when you have a table, the very top row will most likely be your header row. This one, now that we have our header one, the rest of them are going to be the normal ones. So TD is if you have just a regular entry. Entry 1, TD, entry 2.